Umbra smirked as he slammed an armored boot into the human prisoner's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Eric dry-heaved, hacking up blood, feeling a rib crack. But Umbra would regret mocking this human soldier. Soon, it would backfire on him, horribly. The acrid stench of smouldering rubble and burnt flesh filled Eric's nostrils. Smoke clogged the air. Countless charred bodies, human and Ocampa alike, lay strewn across the war-ravaged alien landscape. Plasma fire still sizzled against rock. Eric knelt in the dust, disarmed, bleeding from a dozen wounds. A semicircle of 5 towering reptilian Ocampa warriors leveled plasma rifles at his head. They moved with controlled precision, their scales glistening purple and black under the harsh orange sunlight. Eric glowered at their leader Umbra, meeting his cold, unblinking vertical slit eyes. He spat blood. "You're dead, human. But if you beg, I might let you live as my plaything, a little human pet," Umbra growled, mandibles clicking. "I promise I'll only sometimes forget to feed you." Eric tensed, mind racing, searching for any way out of this mess. He was a cornered rat. All his squadmates were dead. Their covert sabotage mission failed. These Ocampa controlled the only key resource depots left on this shithole frontier planet. If they held the depots, their reinforcements would flood the system within days, overrunning the meager human defenses. Billions would be slaughtered or enslaved under Ocampa tyranny, all because Eric fucked up, because he got captured. He couldn't let that happen. He wouldn't let that happen. Eric would find a way out of this, get back to his lines. He'd blow those damn depots sky high or die trying. For the sake of humanity, he couldn't fail, even if he had to rip out Umbra's reptilian throat with his teeth. Eric met Umbra's gaze with smoldering defiance. "I'm the one who is going to make you beg, you scaly freak." Umbra snarled, slamming his rifle stock into Eric's jaw. Stars exploded in his vision. He tumbled face first into the bloody dirt. Everything went black. Eric groaned, head pounding as he slowly regained consciousness. The Ocampa soldiers had seized his weapons and gear, binding his wrists in front of him with rough metal cuffs. They yanked him to his feet by his hair and shoved him forward, keeping their plasma rifles trained on his head. Umbra snorted derisively. "Look at this pathetic human. So small and ugly, so weak." His troops chortled in agreement. One kicked the back of Eric's knee, sending him sprawling face first into the dirt. "Get up, worm!" Umbra snarled, grabbing Eric by the collar and dragging him upright. He leaned in close, hot breath washing over Eric's face. "Your kind are nothing but vermin infesting the galaxy, but you'll see that soon enough." They stripped him of his combat armor, tossing it aside like garbage. A guard ripped off Eric's shirt, leaving him bare-chested. Another produced a camera drone, hovering it in front of Eric's face. "Smile for the viewers back home," Umbra sneered. "Let them see their mighty soldier now before he squeals all his secrets." Eric was marched for miles under the scorching sun, staggering from exhaustion and thirst. The soldiers berated him the entire way, lashing him with their tails when he stumbled. By the time they reached the Ocampa compound, he was bruised, bloodied, and coated in grime, wearing nothing but filthy rags. They hurled him into a cramped, musty cell. Eric hit the ground hard, gasping as pain jolted through his body. The heavy metal door slammed shut with a crushing sense of finality. There was no cot, sink, or toilet, just 4 grimy metal walls pressing in on him. A single flickering light panel cast harsh shadows. Eric pushed himself up into a sitting position with a wince, head throbbing. His tongue felt swollen, throat parched. Time lost all meaning in that cell. It could have been hours or days, impossible to tell. All he knew was the gnawing hunger in his gut and the burn of thirst in his throat. When Umbra finally returned, he was flanked by 3 guards. Questions were barked at Eric, demands for classified information. When Eric remained stubbornly silent, the beating began. Fists slammed into his face and torso until he crumpled like a rag doll. Umbra's clawed hand seized his throat, talons digging into his flesh. "I can keep this up forever, human. You will break." Eric met Umbra's cold gaze through rapidly swelling eyes. "Fuck you," he rasped. "I'll die before I talk." The torture only intensified from there. Umbra was creative in his cruelty. Waterboarding, stress positions, electric shocks, sensory deprivation. He used it all, growing more sadistic by the day. The soldiers worked in shifts, depriving Eric of sleep. But Eric's training helped him endure. He retreated into his mind, focusing on his breathing, in, out, in, out. He wouldn't break, he couldn't. Too much depended on him. In rare solitary moments, Eric studied his surroundings. He counted the seconds between guard rotations. His cell door looked old and corroded. The hinges were loose. An opportunity. Curled on the filthy floor after another brutal interrogation session, he began to plan. He'd only have one shot at escape. It had to be timed perfectly. The Ocampa couldn't know what hit them. Humanity was depending on him. And despite the hell he'd endured, Eric's resolve had never been stronger. He would escape. He would destroy those depots. He would hurt the Ocampa like they'd hurt him. Or die trying. Eric's heart pounded as he worked the crude lockpick fashioned from his bed frame. The guards had just left, their bootsteps fading down the corridor. It was now or never. The lock clicked. He held his breath, easing the cell door open. The hinges creaked softly as he slipped out into the dimly lit hallway, every muscle tensed. He crept along the shadows, bare feet silent on the grated metal floor. An Ocampa guard rounded the corner ahead, a plasma rifle in his clawed hands. Eric lunged, one arm snaking around the guard's throat as he wrenched the rifle away. The guard thrashed, gurgling, but Eric held tight until he went limp. He lowered the body and grabbed the guard's access card and weapon. Alarms shrieked to life, a cacophony of wailing klaxons and flashing red lights. "Shit," Eric hissed. They'd discovered his escape. Heart in his throat, he sprinted down the corridor, following the signs to the communications center. He had to send that distress signal. Two guards burst through a side door, plasma rifles raised. Eric dove into a combat role, dodging searing blasts of plasma. He came up firing, dropping one guard with a shot to the head. The second fired wildly, but Eric closed the gap, slamming the rifle stock into the Ocampa's face. Bones crunched. The guard crumpled. Eric reached the comms center, blasting the door controls and barricading himself inside with overturned desks and equipment. His fingers flew over the control console as he worked to hack the system and send the SOS. The door exploded inward, a wall of smoke and flames. Umbra stormed in, flanked by a squad of soldiers. "Surrender now, human, and I promise your death will be quick." Eric ducked behind a console as plasma raked the room. "I've got a better idea," he called out. "How about you go fuck yourself?" "So you're only delaying the inevitable," Umbra snarled. "You'll never escape this base alive." "Maybe not," Eric said, eyes hard. "But my signal already went out. My people are coming, and they'll reduce this place to molten slag." As if on cue, a distant explosion shook the base, followed by another and another growing closer. The sound of human dropships roared overhead. Umbra looked up, face twisting with rage and disbelief. Eric allowed himself a bloody grin. "Told you. Now let's see if you Ocampa fight as well as you posture." Explosions rocked the Ocampa base as human dropships rained hellfire from above. Soldiers in powered armor stormed the compound, plasma rifles blazing. Umbra roared orders at his troops, desperate to repel the attack. Eric seized his chance. He charged Umbra, a primal battle cry on his lips. They collided in a fury of blows, armored fists smashing into flesh. Umbra's superior strength sent Eric reeling, but he rallied, ducking under a vicious hook. Eric drove his elbow into Umbra's throat. The Ocampa gagged. They traded vicious strikes evenly matched. Eric's human tenacity against Umbra's reptilian power. Blood spattered the deck, bones crunched. Neither refused to yield. Outside, the battle raged. Human forces pushed forward, heedless of losses. Ocampa lines buckled under the onslaught. Tactical squad maneuvers outflanked defenders. Heavy weapons scythed through barricades. Eric and Umbra battled on, bloody and exhausted. Eric swept Umbra's legs. They crashed to the deck, grappling. Eric wrenched Umbra's plasma rifle away and pressed the barrel to his foe's head. He hesitated, finger on the trigger. Revenge tasted so sweet. But was more bloodshed the answer? As he wavered, a stray plasma blast struck the room. Equipment exploded in a flash of searing heat and sound. The ceiling collapsed with a groan of twisting metal. Debris rained down, burying them. Eric clawed his way back to consciousness. His body screamed in agony, pinned under rubble. Umbra lay nearby, a twisted shard of metal jutting from his chest. A painful rasp accompanied each labored breath. "Human," Umbra sputtered through bloody froth. "You must help me." Eric barked a laugh that sent stabbing pains through his ribs. "Why should I, after everything you've done?" Umbra's eyes, once cold and cruel, now held a flicker of desperate hope. "Please, I do not wish to die here, not like this." The weight of the moment hit Eric like a hammer blow. He had the power to decide Umbra's fate. Let him suffer as Eric had suffered, or show mercy, even to an enemy. The sounds of battle echoed through the ruined room, a reminder of the greater conflict that hinged on Eric's actions. The smoke-filled air clogged his throat as he considered his next move, knowing it would have far-reaching consequences beyond this shattered base. Eric gritted his teeth as he shifted his weight, trying to relieve the pressure on his pinned legs. The rubble groaned ominously. Umbra lay nearby, each breath a wet rattle. "Stop moving, human," Umbra hissed. "You'll bring it all down on us." "So what's your brilliant plan? Wait here to die?" Eric snapped. "Our only chance," Umbra coughed, violet blood flecking his lips, "is to work together. Truce. For now." Eric laughed harshly. "You must be desperate, Umbra." "I am," the Ocampa rasped, "as are you." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant battle. Finally, Eric spoke. "I'll lift. You drag yourself out. Deal?" Umbra nodded. Bracing his shoulders against a slab, Eric heaved upward with all his remaining strength. His muscles burned. The debris shifted. Umbra crawled forward, claws scrabbling. With a final grunt, Eric pushed the slab aside. He collapsed, gasping. Umbra sprawled beside him, breath coming in short, agonized pants. "Why do you fight us, human?" Umbra asked after a moment. "Why can't you leave us be?" Eric turned to him, incredulous. "You attacked us. We just want to live in peace." "Peace," Umbra spat. "You expand, taking world after world. What choice do we have but to strike first?" "It's not like that," Eric argued. "We're explorers, not conquerors. There's enough for both our peoples." "Lies. You covet our resources, our territory." Umbra's eyes narrowed. "You'd exterminate us." "No." Eric's voice rose. "I'm sorry for what happened to your world, but annihilation isn't the answer. We can find a way to coexist." Umbra fell silent, considering. "I thought I knew humans. Perhaps I was wrong." A faint scraping sound made them both tense. Voices echoed through the rubble. "Sir, Commander Umbra?" The voices grew closer. We're here," Umbra called, his voice cracking. The debris shifted as Ocampa soldiers dug towards them. Hope surged in Eric's chest. Maybe they could end this, find peace. A scaly hand thrust through a gap, then another. The gap widened. Umbra's second-in-command, Zorik, peered in, eyes widening as he saw Eric. "Commander, get back!" Zorik leveled his rifle at Eric's face. "I'll end this human filth." "Zorik, no!" Umbra tried to rise, fell back with a cry. "The human is no threat." "He's tainted your mind," Zorik snarled. "Corrupted you." His finger tightened on the trigger. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Umbra lurched upright, throwing himself in front of Eric. The plasma blast took him square in the chest. Umbra crumpled. Eric screamed. Zorik stared in shock as his commander fell. Umbra hit the ground, a charred hole smoking in his armor. Eric scrambled to him, cradling his head. "Why?" Eric choked out. "Wanted to believe," Umbra coughed wetly. "In peace, in you." His eyes fixed on Eric, urgent. "Go, escape, end this, for both." A final rattling breath. Umbra went limp. Eric held him for a long moment, tears cutting through the grime on his face. He lowered Umbra to the ground, closed his eyes. Then he ran, Zoric's furious shouts fading behind him as he vanished into the smoke and chaos. Umbra's dying plea echoed in his mind. He had to get back to his people, had to try one last time to forge a peace between their kinds, or they'd all die here, in the rubble and the ruin, with nothing but hatred in their hearts. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.